All right, so this is some experimental content I want to try, and it's basically me reviewing old hunts that I did to see what I could have done better. So here we got Charge Blade on progression set on a new save file, and I guess we're fighting Palumu. I just picked a random file. The reason I want to pick an old hunt is because there's clearly things I could improve upon it, and it just gives me more to talk about. So let's get right into it. If you get a chance to tenderize, make sure something is always tenderized. Tenderize is very strong in Monster Hunter World, but the power behind tenderize is its ability to make really poopy part hit zone values into really strong hit zone values. So you can create strategies around that. So if a monster's toppled is triggered off of its legs, you can just tenderize the legs and it becomes a weak point, and you're going to hit those anyway. So it just all lines up. So I think tenderizing is really strong. So even if you don't like tenderizing, I would get you to reconsider. It's actually a great boon to the hunter. Okay, so we charge the shield there. That's a priority, is to charge your shield. So here I'm just doing like single weak slashes because I still am not sure how much I can fit in. But for Charge Blade, I did the DPS analysis much later. And for Charge Blade, weak slash is actually very, very, very bad. So you want to at least get in the return stroke. So the weak slash return stroke, because the return stroke, its DPS efficiency is really strong. So for those, I should have actually hit the return stroke on those. So here I went to Charge Sword. Now, I'm actually a pretty big advocate for Charge Sword, and the reason is you get a lot of benefits from Charge Sword that are not immediately apparent. Like, yeah, you don't get a really huge damage number out of Charge Sword, but so the Mind's Eye is really useful in progression. Not to mention the file damage really adds up. If the total damage from file damage can add up to an exchange time window, then it's definitely worth it. So we'll do DPS analysis on this later. Additionally, if you're running KO files, a lot of the damage really adds up from the stuns and the KOs you get. So here I went into axe mode. It's kind of interesting. I've changed my opinion on this, but here I clearly had an opportunity to go into Savage Axe mode. But the thing about Savage Axe mode is it's going to expire eventually because your shield is eventually going to run out of charge. So you definitely don't want to go into Savage Axe mode if you know your shield is going to expire. So here, honestly, I should have just waited until I got a topple to go into Savage Axe mode. Okay, so now he's enraged. So anytime you whiff like that, that's just not good. Okay, so one issue I was having here back then was I wasn't using the shield enough because I was just coming off Sword and Shield, so I was trying to dodge that. That is not correct. You really do not want to shield with Charge Blade. You always want to stay unsheathed as much as possible because Charge Blade has one of the best, not the best guard in the game, but it has a really strong guard with its regular guard and when your shield is charged. Not only that, your charge shield guard leads into a lot of moves. You can go into SAD cancel into round slash as well as SAD stuff as well to Savage Axe. So you always want to stay unsheathed. You do not want to sheath unless you absolutely have to. Charge Blade actually has one of the longest sheath times out of all of the weapons in Monster Hunter. So that was pretty risky to charge the shield while I had some downtime there, but it's still a pretty good idea. Like if you have downtime, in this case for Palumu, when he's up in the air, you can't hit him at all. And you have to prioritize charging the shield. Yeah, it's a pretty good idea to charge it, even though you don't hit anything. Okay, so anytime a monster invades your area, you need to engage in multi-monster in an area tactics. So there's a couple things you can do. One thing you can do is just scare off the monster immediately with dung pods. So that's why I always have dung pods ready at the front of my item bar. If you're gonna let the invading monster stay in the area, one thing you should do is always stay on the opposite side of the monster so that the monster is between you and the invading monster. So if Tsitsi is standing here, I always want to be positioning myself so I'm standing here if Palumu is the target monster. And if Tsitsi rotates this way, then I'm going to rotate that way as well, because Tsitsi is going to be using attacks, and every time he uses attack, it's going to be hitting Palumu, and that's always going to be flinching him. And anytime it gets flinched, I can get an extra damage, but at the same time, I don't want to get hit by Tsitsi. So that's why you always do this rotating ring around the rosy game with invading monster. So here I charge the sword. I would actually not do that. I would focus on axe attacks because you have more potency out of those attacks. Okay, so that's a massive blunder I did there. So what I did was I charged the shield, even though I just went to charge axe mode. And this was something I didn't take into account. So when you charge the shield, you're spending all your files to charge the shield. But when you have 0 files, you lose your Savage Axe. So I basically did all that effort to go into Savage Axe, and I just lost it just to recharge my shield. And I actually didn't have to charge my shield in that case. That was kind of a risky tenderize. Okay, so we got full files here. So here I went into Savage Axe, and that's not a good idea because I cannot properly hit him with axe moves. So I shouldn't have done a downward there. I should have did rising into ED2. You know, excluding SAD and super SAD. It's actually your strongest move out of the whole charge bully moveset. One goal when you're doing your axe punishes is you're trying to always think, how do I land as many ED2s as possible and safely also, right? You don't really want to greed stuff because you don't want to get hit. So one way to do that is rising into ED2, and you just repeat that, rising into ED2, rising into ED2. There I went for a downwards, and that's just because I didn't know what the optimal combo was. So there I should have morphed back into sword mode after I was done instead of rolling. Okay, again, that's not really correct to go into Savage Axe there, because when you go into Savage Axe, you're committing to axe moves. Otherwise, you're just wasting files. So, but the issue with axe mode, your defense is extremely bad in axe mode. You really do not want to stay in axe mode. Sword and shield mode is you can get a lot of damage out of sword and shield mode, and the defense is way better. You have the charge shield to guard. Axe mode, your movement is severely gimped. You can only really iframe things. Positioning as a form of defense, like just trying to stay outside of monster range, is not really practical because it's just really inefficient. Like a lot of people underestimate how bad it is to lose walking mobility. So this goes for greatsword as well. Like it's really bad. Yeah, that was a lucky KO. And this is one issue that a lot of beginner hunters run into is they get these lucky KOs or lucky flinches and they think they did the right thing. That was actually the completely wrong thing to do because he was actually starting his next move and I was stuck in the ED2 recovery animation. So if I did not get that KO, I would have actually gotten hit. So this is where positive reinforcement is actually a bad thing because it positively reinforces bad habits that you can do. So instead of going for 82, I should have morphed back into Sword and Shield mode and played defense instead. Again, still doing downward slash. It's not the right move. You should do rising into 82. But at least here, I morphed back to Sword and Shield mode when the monster got back up. So that's actually a good thing. So I actually did the right thing here this time. I stayed unsheathed. Here I did the wrong thing. I actually sheathed. But see, the reason I actually sheathed there was so I could get a quick clutch claw. Because I saw that he was not enraged. So I figured I could get a wallbang here. But really, you don't need a sheath to do that. If you plan out your positioning as well as your timing, you can actually claw onto him with the slow clutch claw while unsheathed. So it really wasn't necessary to sheath there. Okay, I should have just guarded that. Just guarded that. I should have had no business starting an attack there. Okay, so that's another strong move from Charge Blade. It's actually the Advancing Slash. Advancing Slash for Charge Blade is actually very strong. Its motion value is quite strong. It's a very good gap closer, like a short gap closer, and it can chain to Return Stroke. So it's just overall a very good move. You should be using it a lot. Are we charging a sword here? Okay, so here's the issue. I charged the sword, and then I want to charge the axe. But the thing is, I'm not really going to be using sword attacks, especially while he's punished. So there isn't really a need to charge the sword at this point in the hunt. Now, when the monster gets back on its feet, and I find an opportunity to charge the sword because I'm not really going to prioritize axe attacks, then yeah, sure, charge the sword. But if I'm going to plan on doing Savage Axe and to maximize my Savage Axe topple damage, I should have not charged the sword, just charged the Savage Axe, and then go into Savage Axe attacks. And here I got a lucky KO, which extended the topple. Again, try to identify when you get lucky because you don't want to positively reinforce bad habits. Like if you get lucky, yeah, you take it and you capitalize on it, but don't think you're playing good. And the monster is capture ready, so I'm pretty sure I just capture him. If you guys enjoyed this video, let me know if you like this style of video, and thanks for watching.